students who first come to the class. I used to teach the class much larger, and representing all four classes, freshman to senior, all disciplines like you, so different age group and different ethnic background. So it's a very good sample, random sample. When I first asked the question, almost there's no, both girls and boys, men and women, all decide that liberty is extremely important. It's certainly more important than justice. Rationality is more important than sympathy, empathy, or compassion. Rights, more important than responsibility. And due process of law, more important than civility. And individualism, or individual dignity, is more important than social harmony. I don't know, I'm not going to do the survey here with this small group. But then 2 years ago, the same question is raised. And the change is so phenomenal. And in fact, approaching half of the people consider justice as important as liberty. I don't know, in your own minds, you may have your choice. And more people choose empathy and sympathy and compassion, both men and women, than rationality. Especially if rationality is understood in Kober's sense, instrumental rationality. And also, rights and responsibility, even though more people still choose rights as more important than responsibility. Law and civility, very close. And many people are very suspicious of law that may degenerate into a kind of legitimacy. And this kind of over-litigious may turn out to be very detrimental to social harmony. So civility is important. Of course, dignity of the individual still features very prominently. That's one of the core values in the American society, individualism. But sense for social harmony, especially sense for not just social harmony of this generation, but for generations to come, also features prominently. If you make a distinction in terms of gender, many more women would accept justice, sympathy, to a certain extent, responsibility, civility, and harmony than men. I think one of the reasons I don't have any basis, empirical basis for presenting this argument, is precisely these two major forces in shaping not only the human community, but the mindset. We are all part of a life goal. That's very widely accepted. So ecology, ecological consciousness, or environmental movements on the one hand, and gender consciousness, feminist movement on the other, have contributed to this very basic value orientation. But if you do the same kind of research, this is the argument or general, rather simplistic research in China, for college students as well as well-established CEOs, you come with a rather different picture, because China is committed to modernization, modernism, and they basically don't pay enough attention to environmental issues, of course, at tremendous expense. On the other, they are not as sensitive as people in the United States concerning feminist movements, even though gender equality in China is very different. And for example, in the United States, still the expression Mrs. is still, there's no such an expression of Mrs. in China anymore. No one is anyone's wife or Mrs. Always the equal notion. And therefore, you always keep your maiden name after marriage. And so your maiden names persisted in terms of your self-definition. On the other hand, job discrimination, all forms in terms of authority, in terms of access to resources, in terms of leadership, is very much male-dominated society. So China, for years and years, is overwhelmed by this principle of equality. Therefore, liberty features very prominently. Everybody considers liberty as a major issue. They're just overwhelmed because of politicization of sympathy or compassion. They're much more concerned about rationality. And since they don't have a lot of rights, when you talk about the, especially college people, they identify rights as absolutely critical. And of course, law and the dignity of the individual. So it's a very interesting, there's a change in America towards what I would consider a feminist and by implication Confucian values. And there's also a major change in China. But anyway, the first question, whether Confucian ethics could be considered as a form of care ethics. Normally the answer is very clear. Of course, it's a form of care ethics. Because first of all, the idea of humanity, the most important value, is often understood as sensitivity or sensibility. Therefore, humanity